This week on Across the Arrowverse, Crisis on Infinite Earths. We made it. Hi everyone, and welcome to Across the Arrowverse. I'm Matthew Vose.
And I'm Catherine Vose.
So we've made it to Crisis on Infinite Earths.
Crisis!
Finally, which has been promised for a good couple of years now.
Yeah.
You know, they have been working towards this, and we have not seen it yet.
Nope.
So, just before we go and start watching it, let's have a quick chat about what we're expecting, and what we think, and our hopes and dreams and fears. And see how we do. And mostly what I wanted to talk to you about was that scene with Nash Wells, which has come at the end of every episode leading into Crisis.
Yeah, it's interesting, because Nash Wells has been quite a sort of quietish character.
Yeah, not in it much. Not in Flash much.
Yeah, exactly. You know, he's been around, he's done a few things. He's come across as a little bit morally dubious.
Mm-hmm.
But yes, he's clearly going to be a big thing in Crisis.
Particularly what I want to do is say Tom Cavanagh is probably the best actor across all the shows.
Yes.
Yeah, and they've got some good people doing good stuff in these things.
But he's excellent.
And I suspect they knew what they were going to do with this scene, because it's really good. Having now watched it 4 or 5 times, it's like, this is, you know, he's giving a really meaty delivery here of his lines, a really sort of slightly emotional thing. And then it ends up with quite an interesting moment of, you know, what's going on here? What's coming?
Is he going to be like a god? God Wells.
Possibly. Anything can happen. But I think that's mostly what I wanted to say, was just, rather than going big and doing a thing of the Monitor explaining what's going on, everyone could die in this crisis, which is true, but also not going to happen.
I mean, we still have some shows to watch.
We know there's still, 4 or 5 shows running at any one time, so come on. But they've just set it up as there's story here. There's actual things going on.
Do you think he's going to end up in a cool uniform like Layla,
possibly.
whatever she's called?
Lila Morgan. Yeah.
Lila Morgan.
Don't know. Yes, I think he is. Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think is coming in the Crisis?
So, should we do it show by show for our characters?
Okay.
So the Flash, I think I've said this a few times. I think Barry Allen will survive this,
right? But
without his powers as the Flash.
Okay.
So I think the Flash will die, but Barry will remain.
Potentially not the Speed Force. Could that be part of it? That the Speed Force is separated?
Maybe. Yeah. So there's that. I think Ja'an is going to be gone by the end of it.
Yeah, I mean...
How much more can you do with that character?
Yeah, and it's a real shame, because I love the character. I love what they do, but... Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that may be the main thing for me with Supergirl.
Right, okay.
Like the main fallout of it.
Yeah,
I'm sure there'll be more hijinks and shenanigans with them.
I think there's going to be a big Luthor thing going on here, which might be the resurrection of Lex Luthor into the series itself.
Yeah.
You know, because killing Lex Luthor's quite a thing that they did last series, so that's quite a thing.
Yeah.
But then they get the chance to bring him back, so it's a little bit of a cop-out, maybe. I don't think something might happen with Lena. Whether she's good or bad, I don't know, but that would be interesting. And I, as I've said elsewhere, I think Supergirl somehow is going to be integrated into the rest of them, so they are actually all more accessible to each other.
Yes.
And partially, this is what... So in the comics of Crisis on Infinite Earths, the point of it was that DC had been going for 60 years at that point, something ridiculous, since Superman started. And so they had all these different Earths and all these different stories and all this backstory. And the point was to consolidate it down. One Earth, every character has one backstory, and you get to start seeing that backstory. Which they then undid a few years later, because, comics. But I feel like they might use some of that in this set of shows.
What about Arrow?
I don't think Arrow's going to die. knowing that there's a couple of episodes of his show left and then his show is done, I can't see you do them without Arrow. Whether he goes to another plane of existence, whether he gets other powers, whether there's something else he goes into the future, or he goes into the past.
Or he just gets to live out a normal life, as a la Captain America.
Absolutely.
You know, he gets a lumberjack shirt and lives in the forest with Felicity and Mia Baby.
Yeah. It never lasts. So I don't know what's happening there, but I think Arrow himself won't necessarily die.
Mm.
But, you know, I'm happy to be proven wrong.
Yeah.
I don't see the rest of Arrow changing much, because I think they're going to try to do spin-offs from Arrow, and I think we've already seen the future, so they're not going to disrupt the future.
But we've seen a future.
Yeah.
I don't know that we care that much about that future.
Are you going to wipe out all that writing he did? Who knows?
I don't know, they did in Dallas. It
True.
was all a dream.
It's a slightly different thing. He hopes. Legends...
I've no idea, because we're not in the midst of things with Legends.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to impact Legends barely at all.
No, I think they'll have a romp, and then they'll go on and carry on having more romps.
Absolutely. And Batwoman...
I think it will make not a slight bit of difference in the Black Woman arc.
Right.
I think she'll go and participate.
Right.
But that'll be about it, because I don't necessarily feel like they're writing Batwoman in a way that needs people to watch all of the other series.
Okay, that's fair. That's fair. Can I throw in something that it comes to me just because of some of the casting I've seen for Crisis?
Yeah.
The fact that it's got Kevin Conroy as an aged Batman, the voice of Batman from the animated series and the video games, the person who's played Batman more than any other person has played Batman.
Right.
And it's got Burt Ward, and it's got people from the Michael Keaton Batman films, and this sort of thing. I feel like they might learn more about Batman on other Earths.
Okay.
And some of that might cross over. They might adapt some of the Batman story and some of the gadgets or some of the villains or something along those lines. They might set up a future of other villains come over who are slightly different from what Batman has faced on the Earth that we're seeing.
Yeah. That could be
Maybe,
nice.
but again, that's me looking for a bigger universe. Then I suspect you're right. It's not going to impact it too much.
I don't feel they're writing it as a show that necessarily needs the crossover.
Yeah.
Like, there's some of them that need... Like, Legends was born of the other series.
Absolutely.
And Flash has always had crossovers in different worlds. But I don't know that... I don't know that it needs the crossover in the same way.
Black Lightning, Constantine, any of those we think are going to be impacted?
Oh...
I think they're going to be in it, but I don't think they're going to be.
I because Black Lightning's not one that we've followed the same amount, so I can't really even picture how. Yeah. Constantine, I just think of him as one of the Legends crew. I don't think of him as a series in isolation. So I think he'll be around,
right? But
only in the same way as the rest of the Legends crew are.
Yeah, they've not hinted at any magic shenanigans on this.
No.
So okay, we need to go and watch it, and we'll be back in a minute with our thoughts on it.
Bah! Amazing.
You get on the intros now, do you as well? Can I just do intro music and then come back with you going, amazing?
If you like.
I should probably do an intro somewhere. Hi everyone, welcome to Across the Arrowverse. I'm Matthew Vose.
And I'm Catherine Vose.
So every season, the crossover is pretty much what our podcast was invented for.
Yeah, I mean, this was the crossover as crossovers.
Yeah. I found a quote from Grant Gustin 4 years ago, about how they had teased Crisis in the very first episode of The Flash. And he said, yes, our plan, if not our goal, is to get there, but we think it's another 10 years off.
10 years?
But at that stage, I think they just started Legends and Supergirl.
Yeah.
Batwoman wasn't a thing. Black Lightning wasn't a thing. They hadn't
Titans.
Titans, absolutely, but they hadn't done the crossovers with Flash 90 and some of that aspect stuff. So, it's taken a little while, but actually they've gotten all the pieces in place really quickly.
I feel like they had a really fully fleshed out multiverse to be able to make this a meaningful thing.
Yeah. If you think it's, 8 years since Arrow started and 6 since The Flash started.
Yeah.
It has escalated quickly.
Yeah.
And they must have been looking at what Marvel did with their crossovers and like, okay, how have they incorporated things? What have they used?
Yeah.
Overall thoughts?
Well, I'm going to turn that to you.
Okay.
Crisis. We've been looking forward to it.
Yeah.
For 18 months?
Oh, at least. Like, yeah.
Did it deliver for you?
I think so. I think in a different way to something like Endgame. Although Endgame's different, actually. That's not a good comparison.
No.
Because Endgame is the end of the thing. If this was the end of the Arrowverse, maybe not. In terms of it being a crossover such as... And I can't even think of a comparison.
No, I can't. I think they're doing... I mean, it's hard to say they're doing something totally new, because it's not totally new, because it's not dissimilar to what they've done in previous years.
Yeah.
It just feels to me like it's the crossovers that they've done in previous years, but amped up by a factor of 10. Okay,
yeah. So if I think of it in those terms, how does it compare to The Flash versus the Green Arrow, which I think might have been the first one, and then through to Elseworlds? How does it compare to them? It was a better crossover.
Yes.
I think if you strip away the cameos and the meta-textual stuff, the textual stuff comparing it to the original story it was based on, I think this works as a very good crossover.
Yeah.
I think it's got some flaws. I think there's things it could have been stronger on and had more time for, but the time it didn't have for them, it spent on cameos, meta-textual, big world references, shots of shows that haven't yet started.
Yeah.
There are shows that are coming next season that are seen in this. Yeah, so I think it works on every level. I think I can accept the stuff it doesn't do as well, knowing that gives me a chance for Burt Ward to show up.
Yeah. It was. I mean, I didn't know who half these people were.
No,
just to put that out there. But it was very entertaining to me watching you go on the sofa whenever one of these random cameos happened, and I'd be like, so who's that one?
Yeah, and just, you know, the fact they had cameos from the Birds of Prey series. The Birds of Prey series is not mentioned. It's almost an embarrassment. It's a bit like the Green Lantern movie or something. It's like, let's not look directly at it because that was supposed to be better than it was. It's a shame.
Yeah.
But yet they had a continuation of it here. And you know, not as much of a continuation, but in some ways a little bit. Like they had Smallville. Smallville ran for 10 seasons. It's the big success of live action superhero TV. And they managed to do a slightly future thing, which, as I've read, they got the writers of Smallville to come back and write that scene.
Oh, how nice.
So that they could make it true to the characters and what the characters had always wanted.
Right.
Yeah.
That's lovely.
So, yeah, like I say, the metatextual stuff, this sort of thing, great.
They really do treat their sort of... I hesitate to say source material, because they're not just doing a reworking of exactly the same thing, but... They treat their origins and their predecessors very well.
Yeah. And DC has always done this. You know, the fact that in the first Christopher Reeve Superman movie, there's a woman who plays Lois Lane's mother. Or no, I might have gotten that wrong, but there was a woman in it who I think was the Lois Lane on the Adventures of Superman TV serial.
Yeah.
They have always done this, had actors coming back and repeating roles.
It's really nice.
Yeah,
it's really interesting. And I think it enables people to watch it on different levels.
Yep.
You know, because I mean, I still enjoyed it, even without my my superhero knowledgeable husband on my right-hand side. But yeah, really good.
Yeah, really good. So what did you think overall?
I very much enjoyed it. I enjoyed all 5 episodes. I liked that each episode kept a flavour of its source show. I mean, and just a flavour at times, but there was a strong, you know, it's like
I'll dig into it when we
dig into it. But I thought that was good. I am excited by the idea that not just the world has changed, but the multiverse has changed. I'm very excited. So I'm really excited to see how those guys all being on the same Earth changes the second half of their seasons. Those that are having a continuing season.
Nice.
You know, because there's a number of them that I was just like, it's not going to impact the story that much. They'll just carry on with this plot for the second half of the season.
Right.
It will be interesting to see if they will. You know, like...
Can I ask, do you know anything that's coming for the rest of the seasons?
No, not at all.
Okay. I've seen one spoiler, which I think we're going to learn in the first episode of that next episode of that series. So,
yeah.
But, like, I'm interested to go, oh, they've actually changed stuff. One thing that we know has changed. Lex Luthor is now alive and appears to be a good person. That's
yes, because he's their boss, isn't he?
And
yes,
was accepting the Nobel Peace Prize. Now, that is a very classic Lex Luthor thing, you know, becoming president, becoming a honourable statesman.
I'm not sure I believe he's a good
whilst
person.
also trying to take things down separately. Yeah, so...
Didn't he do that in Smallville? Maybe it wasn't Smallville.
I have not watched all of Smallville, and I think it's hinted at as a kind of, you know, we're expecting this guy to become president one day.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. There is a cartoon movie called Batman, Superman, or Superman, Batman, Public Enemies, which is about Lex Luthor becoming president and outlawing superheroes, effectively, or creating a sort of superhero registration act, you know, very Marvel. But Superman and Batman have to go on the run. And, it's nice.
Interesting. Yeah, so I really enjoyed it. There were a couple of things I'm like, does that really hang together?
Okay.
But we need that MacGuffin to carry on.
Yeah.
And for me, my biggest problem was the Monitor.
Oh, okay.
Like, where did the Monitor's powers come from?
Yeah, that is something I've seen people say, like, okay, we get that he did an experiment that caused all this, but how did he become a god? Yeah,
and how did he become... Yeah, exactly. How did he get all these powers? How did he essentially become a god?
Yeah.
How's he alive 10,000 years later? And with this enormous set of powers? But like,
he can't. He needs them to.
But he needs them to help him. Yeah, and how come he suddenly went? Oh, that Book of Destiny thing that I was using to test them, that might be useful for me too.
Yeah.
Like, dude, maybe you should have done a bit of your homework earlier. Yeah. This could have made your life a lot easier. And also, like, why did he really want to go to the Dawn of Time as his first time jump? Right. Like, seriously.
I would be going earlier that day and buying some stocks.
Yeah, like, hubris. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, in the grand scheme of things, you know, him and his shenanigans were just the core... Yeah. The core MacGuffin to get all of the rest of the stuff. There was some really good stuff done across the 5 episodes. But yeah, that was a little bit dubious to me.
I feel a bit the same about the Paragons. A bit like, okay, so the Paragons are, you know, mostly our superheroes.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
And also I'm a bit with the Paragons. So at the end of it, they've got all their fancy table all on the Earth together, and pretty much all of the Paragons get a seat round the table. Not all of them. Mm-hmm. But everyone's just gone, oh, Ryan Choi, you can go back to your baby.
Yeah.
See ya.
Well, I suspect we're going to see more of Ryan Choi.
Oh, I hope so, because otherwise it's just like, oh, well, dismissed.
Yeah. and strange to, again, something I've seen referenced is it's a little bit strange to include him as, like, okay, random human dude, and to introduce him in this, for not a single show to have set him up first. Like... Surely there was some way of having him on last season of Legends or an episode of Supergirl or The Flash or something.
That didn't bother me so much.
Okay.
I quite liked the insertion of Immortal into all that. I just kind of feel that if he's in the gang, he's in the gang.
Yeah. Why could he not have been someone the Flash had to save from blood work? In an episode for reasons.
Yeah,
I think that's the only thing. It was just strange to be like, okay, now we've got this dude who we're referencing.
I did enjoy that he recognised Ray Palmer for his science, not for anything else.
Absolutely.
That I felt was a nice deft touch, and they did a lot of nice deft touch with the sort of the person to person interactions in this, which I enjoyed.
Nice.
Yeah. Right. So, shall we go through it? Episode by episode?
Yes, I think I just want to touch on, you said a thing about each episode feeling like it was its own series episode, as well as being part of a greater whole. It was quite interesting reading about the development of it, and I'm telling you this, I think you might be interested. Mark Guggenheim was the overall sort of creative director for the series, for Crisis. He said, right, here are all the beats we want to hit. So, like, there's at least one per episode, and here are all the things of the story we want to break through. So go away and work out where they fit best in your series, and that will help us decide the order. So they could have, flexed the order around, and I think they did on different people asking for different things. And then each series, so like the Supergirl writers wrote the Supergirl episode, including the beats that he'd plotted out, but then where Supergirl had a scene in someone else's episode, they then went and wrote that as well.
Okay.
So, for instance, the Supergirl arc is consistent with Supergirl, but because her episode also included, the Lena and Alex stuff, they got to write that too. And I think that's why each one sort of serves its greater whole really nicely. Like, the Lena stuff is really nice in that. The Flash stuff dealing with Flash 90 and what we've been seeing about the Flash dying in his episode and so on. And particularly Sarah being, the focus of the Legends episode. And this interesting thing of I now have no connection to the world. Like, it comes across as freeing to her with a tinge of sadness, but I'm interested to see what that does to her, and it feels like they're going to do something different with the character. So I quite like what they've done, how they've used the opportunity to develop their own series.
Yeah.
Or wrap up storylines, or do whatever they were doing within this 5-hour thing.
Yeah.
Whereas previous crossovers have thrown it out the window.
Yes.
They've just done, it's a 4-hour thing, we're just mixing it and matching it.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot more significant character development happened in this crossover than we've ever had before.
Yeah, it's really interesting.
Yeah, really good.
Okay, now we can go through them.
Okay. So, Supergirl.
I've heard of her.
Supergirl.
Is she real?
So, I'm just going to say this it's not necessarily a big negative thing,
okay.
But there was something else hidden in the ground in Supergirl's Earth. That big blooming tower. Like, seriously, how much stuff have they got hidden underground in Supergirl's Earth?
It's a quantum tower.
Right.
Which means it wasn't necessarily there until the time it was consciously observed and needed to be there.
Okay.
Can we go with that?
I can live. I can. Do you know? I can accept that more than Leviathan and everyone else who's been hidden underground in Supergirl's Earth just happened not to notice the quantum tower in the middle of that city.
I mean, the towers are a reference to the original comic book, but I feel like it didn't have to be a tower. That was such an easy thing, and that it being a tower didn't actually matter. It could have just been a device. I felt like that was going to be a core thing throughout to hold back this wave. But they kind of didn't really do that. No. It was literally just a small defensive mechanism to evacuate some people. Yeah.
For no particular purpose anyway.
Yeah.
I was kind of like, when they were evacuating people to Earth 1, because I kind of knew from conversations we had previously that one of the outcomes of Crisis was that the multiverse was going to be condensed into one. I knew that was a thing. So I was kind of expecting that we were going to be left with whoever managed to evacuate from the other Earths. So that was making sense to me at the time. But yeah, it little pointless.
Okay, yeah.
But it did give us a good setting for battle.
Yep.
I'd now like to see if there's any footage of the actors doing those moves without the demons.
The CG, yeah.
Because that's
fighting thin air.
That's a weird sort of choreography to have to practice.
It was a bit strange, wasn't it? And just watching them do it, sometimes you think, God, the stuff you have to go through for these shows.
Yeah.
You must be watching people on things like Grey's going like, can I do some actual stuff?
Yeah,
at some point?
I'll learn all the medical phrases.
Yeah, right.
Okay, what else did I think? Lord of the Rings, Legends of Tomorrow. Okay. I quite like the self-knowing crossover jokes that they constantly do. That does make me smile.
Yeah, it's good.
Something else that happened this episode. Sorry, I'm not doing the story of this episode at all. I'm just going through all the things I liked about it.
Yeah, absolutely.
The scene between Sarah and the Earth 16 Oliver, when he was agonising over...
Let's get into it,
over how it was his fault. He felt he'd ruined her life because he took her on that boat trip. And she was like, no, I chose to go on that boat trip.
Yeah.
And actually... everything that happened since has freed me. I thought that was a really nice moment and a really nice sort of moment for Sarah to own her own empowerment.
Yeah, fully agree. I found it really interesting watching it, and then it suddenly clicked. We've had this best of Arrow thing going on, the victory lap, where he gets to see all of his different people that he's worked with and have a goodbye with them. And it suddenly clicked as like, oh, they didn't get the chance to do that with Sarah, did they? They saved it for the crossover.
Nice.
And it is like, that is the scene that is sort of her goodbye to Arrow, although we'll come to more of an Arrow goodbye in a bit. But really nice. It felt slightly out of place just because it was, okay, why are we doing all this? Why have we gone to a different Earth and a different time and what? And then you go, oh, this is an emotional closure thing for people who've watched it in the Supergirl episode. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It was very... I mean, the plot point that took them there started off really touching, but that was a little bit weird, right?
Yeah. Jonathan
in a pod.
Yeah.
Jonathan's like Superman putting his baby in a pod to send him to Earth.
Yeah,
that was amazing. That was sort of
very good idea, and I feel like it's something that has been done in comics, but I didn't see it coming. You picked up on it before I did. It's great.
Yeah, really nice. Good. But then for the pod to randomly end up on Earth 16, in Arrow's lair, like.
In 2040 or 2046, it was a bit contrived.
Yeah,
and possibly just doing again the Arrow victory lap of, well, we've been to this alternate version of Arrow once before, so let's do it again.
And also there wasn't even that much. Oliver didn't even seem to know there was a baby in his flat.
Yeah, the baby who they took care of for 2 episodes and then didn't matter.
Yeah, and then suddenly became 2.
Well. Yeah, so in the Supergirl episode, when we had that really nice Lois and Clark moment, which there are hints of a Superman and Lois series coming, and I would dig it with Tyler Hoechlin and the lady who plays Lois, whose name I don't know.
Well, you need to know because I've written down Heartmark Lois.
Yeah, like we've enjoyed it every time she's been in it, and if they get a spin-off show, great. And the moment that they had where they were talking, he said about having 2 children.
He did, living on Earth and having 2 children.
Absolutely.
Which appears to be where they ended up.
Absolutely.
Albeit, I'm now talking about episode 1 and that's episode 5. But
let's call our jets on episode 5. Right, let's keep going to the list.
Okay. Lena and Alex.
Mm-hmm.
I quite liked that.
I've heard of them. Are they real?
So Lena, despite us having left Lena as a slight...
Mm-hmm. Whatever's going on with Lena. Yeah.
Whatever's going on with you. She pulled it out of the bag. Mm-hmm. She worked with Alex. Mm-hmm. Alex has apologised, but Lena's like, I'm working with you, but we're not friends.
Great. She's learned the lessons of her own emotional betrayals.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I like that character consistency.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I'm going to be really interested to see what post-crisis Lena's like. Especially with Len Luthor.
Hello, Lenny.
Len Luthor, the middle child.
Yeah. No, it will be really interesting to see. Yeah.
And like, what part does Lena play in Lex's global domination?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that would be good. Nash Wells.
Okay. Pariah.
Like, why? Why?
This is the thing I knew. That he was Pariah.
Right.
And again, Pariah is a thing from the original comic, as is Harbinger, it's that sort of thing. Because in all the shows in the guest star list, it was Tom Cavanaugh, Nash Wells, Pariah.
Yeah.
It was almost impossible to avoid that one. So that
Fair
was
enough.
Fine. What do you mean, why?
Okay, so I suppose there's 2 whys in this. Nash Wells seems like quite a clever guy.
Okay.
Why is he spending his life wandering around trying to kill a god? Like, purely for hubris? And why does the desire to kill that god lead him to an underground cavern where for some reason and somehow this immensely powerful anti-monitor has apparently been locked up?
Mm-hmm.
Like, who locked the anti-monitor up? How did they manage that?
Okay, interesting. I don't know if it's explained in the show, so this could just be headcanon for me. I read that as the Monitor had been able to defeat him or stop him from becoming evil at some point, or taking over, but the Anti-Monitor was still able to exert an influence over the world, over Nash Wells, and lead him. Because there was the whole thing that Nash Wells thought it was the Monitor who was actually evil. So it's the kind of the devil lying with the truth. Yeah. He's sort of, oh yes, see that Monitor guy, he's really bad. Well, it's actually the Anti-Monitor, but he's making it so he didn't know what it was. And in trying to find him to stop him, because he knew there were bad things, he caused him to be released. And I quite like that. I quite like the hubris of it, and I like the pariah aspect of it. And, and it sets up as, okay, this guy, the Anti-Monitor, is powerful and is evil. Yeah. Without him having to actually do anything.
Fair enough. Okay, I'll take that. I'll take that. That makes sense. So that was most of what I picked up from that Supergirl episode. Okay. Is there anything that I've missed that you think we should talk about?
Okay. And my notes are in no particular order, so I'm just going to scan through them. Barry was late. So the whole thing of, the big crisis we've been waiting for, that we've been expecting to come, and our most powerful meta-human was late.
Yes.
And because they haven't done this on The Flash in a while, but this is just the joke they do with The Flash, the fastest man alive.
It's constantly late. Nice.
I loved that return to the joke. That was good.
Yeah.
Sarah and Oliver, we've touched on. And I think that's where we are for now.
Last question for you about episode 1. Okay. Did you really buy that Oliver was dead and gone at the end of that episode?
Right, so this is the other thing to talk about. I couldn't decide. We thought something was going to happen to him.
Yes.
Potentially die, although we weren't sure. Mm-hmm. Yeah. This would have been a very ordinary TV way for him to die, but also they've got so much else to do. This is a way to start it by killing off a character.
Yeah.
Fine. So it's 60% I bought it.
Yeah. Because I didn't buy it. I'm like,
right.
That wasn't sufficiently climactic.
Okay.
And also, he didn't look that injured. And they weren't trying to medicine him properly.
No, that was that was part of the thing of why it's like, not sure about this, because it was just sort of accepted, but
Alex was there, and I know she's not a doctor in this show, but she is quite good at the whole medicining stuff.
Exactly. So, no, in that moment, I don't, like I say, 60% bought it.
Yeah.
I love that they did it.
Yes.
Because of what it allows them to do 3 episodes later. So,
absolutely.
It would have been a very ordinary bit of TV writing, which would have been disappointing, given all the focus being put on this. It allowed them to do something extraordinary.
Yes.
So,
yeah.
Looking back on it, I really like it.
Yes, absolutely.
It's a really interesting thing to do.
Yeah. Nice.
Okay, episode 2 was Batwoman.
I'm loving Batwoman.
Okay.
Loving Batwoman. Yes.
What do you like about her from this? What stood out?
I love the friendship that has developed. Now, this is not just episode 2, but across a number of the episodes, the friendship and the trust and the relationship that's developing between her and Supergirl.
Yeah.
And the fact that they're such different personalities, but they're sort of taking something from each other.
I mean, they're working hard to sell the friendship in the writing and in the performances. And it's working.
Yeah.
It's really good. And I like it because they obviously they've always done this with Oliver and Barry. But that's been a slightly mentor-student relationship.
Yeah.
Some of that going on. And they are very different personalities. And I quite liked where they did the body swap with them. That was an interesting take on it and so on. But this is much more about equals.
Yes.
And as a comparison to Batman and Superman, to have Batwoman and Supergirl just be friends and like hanging out.
Yeah.
So much better. So much more meaty and interesting than we'll fight until we find out our mothers' names are the same.
Mother!
Do you bleed?
Oh dear.
Yeah. So.
Yeah, so I really like that. The less
said about the Justice League film, for the moment.
So yeah, I really like that. As you say, I'm not interested in seeing my super
No.
men and Batmen and people fight each other. It's not for
They,
me.
the Bat They,
the
and
Bat
the Super
They.
They, yeah.
Yeah.
The Super Them. And just to skip forward again to episode 5, the way Cara jumped for joy when Kate arrived. She went, oh, Kate's here, Kate's here!
Yeah.
Amazing. That's the sort of thing we want to see.
Yeah.
Let them have fun together.
I love the way they keep Supergirl's attitude to the world fresh.
Mm.
You know, there's no cynicism in Supergirl.
No.
I really like it. And
great.
That grin and that excitement that she's allowed to show
Absolutely.
sometimes.
Yeah,
Wonderful,
yeah.
wonderful. So what else have I got from this episode? Dark Batman with his exoskeleton.
Wow. Okay, so now we can, because episode 1 had a couple of cameos. It had, Batman 89. It had Burt Ward showing up as Robin, but not huge amounts. And this one, we suddenly get Brandon Routh as Superman. We get Tom Welling as Clark Kent.
Yeah,
revisiting Smallville, and we get Kevin Conroy, who is the biggest Batman actor that there has ever been, finally on screen as Batman, live action, and giving a really, really interesting thing. It's in some ways that's a new Batman. The exoskeleton thing is a bit of the Kingdom Come. Was it Kingdom Come? The series that Superman is from.
Okay.
But it's also got aspects of the Dark Knight, the sort of reinvention of Batman by Frank Miller when he started turning him into this aged, dark, brooding Well,
I was about to say there's a lot of creaking that goes on with the Ben Affleck Batman.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and Christian Bale, they did that with him. He had no cartilage and all this.
So you can see that this is a Batman that's like 10 years, 15 years older than that again.
So it's really interesting to see that, but then some of that backstory of he's just taken to killing and is comfortable taking out the supervillains and Superman. Yeah. Really good. Yeah, great.
And I thought that was interesting. You saw him that he'd taken out the villains. I was like, it's a bit darker than I'd like, but Arrow used to shoot his arrows into people.
Absolutely.
We can live with this, and then that he'd killed Superman. That was brutal.
Yeah. And then it turns out he's got kryptonite in his suit.
Yeah, right?
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah,
yes,
good.
no, that was really good. Really good.
Mm.
And I thought it was interesting, as an interesting development for the Batwoman series, to see her sidekick, Luke, in a very different Luke. It's...
Yeah, that was another part of the hint that this was Batman Beyond, which is an aged Bruce Wayne training up the new Batman, the Batman of the future, which is where I thought they might go with it. Nice that they went to the Batwoman thing, but again, just aspects of different Batman stories coming in to create something. What did you think of Kevin Conroy, who played that Batman?
What do you mean? What did I think?
Well, the performance and
I thought it was an excellent performance. Right. I thought I can understand why the actor has not necessarily been on screen as Batman in his younger self.
Right.
I don't think I don't know that I could necessarily see him doing some of the action.
He's not got the chiseled jaw for a Bruce Wayne.
Yeah.
I think that's the side of it he wouldn't do.
Yeah, but I can see him as a been there, done that. I've now had my body broken. I've lost most of my muscle mass through great pain and injury.
Right.
But I'm going to brood and skulk around in my, and like really being embracing the dark side. I thought he played a very good role.
Yeah, loved it. Because I mean, Kevin Conroy is so important to me. He was Batman in the animated series, which I was exactly the right age for and means a lot to me. He's Batman in the Arkham games. He's Batman in the movies, and just.
Well, I'm glad I said I liked him then.
But he has been a thing. So, and I have seen him doing live readings of stuff. When they announced they were going to do the Killing Joke series,
right?
There's a famous. Is it Killing Joke? There was something. They announced one of the big things they were going to do as an animated thing, and there's a famous Batman monologue in that, and he gave a live reading of it at the performance.
Right.
At the announcement. And you can hear it because he does the voice so well, but he doesn't look the part. So it was really interesting seeing him doing it.
Yeah.
But the bitterness he had about and the it's not a justified explanation of why he killed people, but you can see the incremental steps to where he is now.
Yeah.
How a good man ended up there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Loved it. It was so interesting, and we're talking about each episode having an impact on its own series. So this was the Batwoman episode. it really does sort of cement her feeling on what she's going to be and how she's going to act. And
I think they gave us a whole series worth of accelerated character growth for Kate, and I think she'll come out of it. Hopefully, we'll see this new inner confidence in what she is and what she wants to be part of. We'll see it coming out in the Batwoman series.
I'd love to see it changing the framing device of her writing messages to Bruce, and either stopping her doing that and saying, I'm not following in your footsteps, I'm doing something different, or her writing to this Bruce as well as the Bruce she writes to, sort of incorporating, now I understand the multiverse and the different aspects of Batman. I don't think it will, but
I of all of them, I still think we will see I mean, we might see her being more confident, but when we go back to Batwoman, I still think they're probably going to carry on much of the same story.
Right. Okay.
I don't know how much they will acknowledge the crisis.
Okay, and the Earth Prime aspect and stuff.
Yeah,
okay.
but I think they'll acknowledge it a bit, because I mean, she came in a crossover.
Yep.
But I do think they'll carry on with the Alice story.
Okay.
But
okay.
I don't know. Who knows?
Who knows?
I don't know. Okay, what have we got? Lazarus pits.
Okay, yeah.
They're quite easy to use, right? Just slosh them down.
Sploosh! Underwater for a minute.
Sploosh! Hey, I've got a soulless monster.
Rinse and repeat, yeah.
Right?
It's really hard because I was not into this storyline. And where did Mia go? She just stopped being in the crossover at one stage.
Well, didn't she get, annihilated because she wasn't a Paragon?
Yeah. And then she never comes back.
Oh, this is true.
So, because we're not seeing what's happened in the future yet. And it's entirely possible we won't now.
Yeah.
So,
tell you who's also didn't come back. No, Felicity.
No, I didn't expect her in the crossover.
Fair enough.
I think I will still be surprised if she's not in Arrow's finale.
Fair enough.
Even just a shot or, something. But...
Yeah.
Who knows?
No, I must admit, I'm not as invested in Mia as you, because I didn't watch the last series of Arrow, so I kind of didn't really notice.
But so the whole Lazarus Pit thing, we've been there, we've done that. What I was expecting was Sarah would talk her out of it, and Auntie Sarah or something on those lines. But they still brought him back, and again, they did something interesting with what.
And it all worked out.
But. It was a distraction they didn't need.
Yeah.
That was some time they could have brought back. Yeah.
The other thing that I wrote about this, Lex is back.
Yes.
Super cool.
And there was a point in, I think, by the end of the third episode. Yeah, it must have been by the end of the third episode, where I was just like, there's not been a lot of John Cryer. That's disappointing. I enjoy him so much. I wish they'd done more with Lex. We got more of Lex.
Yeah.
We got the right amount of Lex to make me very, very happy.
Absolutely.
I'll tell you what, I was listening to a podcast earlier and they were talking about 2.5 Men. John Cryer was in 2.5 Men.
Well, he wasn't the brother.
He's the brother.
He's the brother! My goodness, of course he is.
And I knew that, and I knew he'd been in stuff and done well for himself, but it's a fundamentally different performance.
I cannot believe it's taken us this long to put that together, because of course he is. As soon as now I can see the face of the brother in my mind, of course it's him.
But he's so good in this. And we didn't really watch 2.5 Men, so we can't really say on that, but I just think of him as Ducky from Pretty in Pink.
Oh, is that him as well? Of course it is, yes.
That's his sort of breakout role. And, he's a big, lambastic actor. So
he's exactly the sort of actor, if I could act, I'd like to be.
Right.
Big enough for it to be a proper career, but not big enough to be bothered by too much press.
Disappearing into a role.
Yes.
Yeah. So, really nice to have him turning up, some really good interactions with people, some nice, he's still a villain, still stealing the book and going off and doing stuff.
He can't help himself.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's quite fun. It's evil, but it's also kind of mischievous.
No, I'd say it's evil.
Yeah.
You know, he does just decide to go and kill all the Supermen in all the multiverse.
I'll be his legs.
We'll let him off because he's
We'll let
fun.
him off because he's funny. Sorry, Superman.
No, it's great. It's such a good performance. It's such an interesting writing of the character.
Yeah.
Just they're not going for the nuance of someone else, you know, or like Jesse Eisenberg and setting him up as an actual corporate type person. This is just someone who thinks he's better than everyone else and wants to stop the one person who is potentially better than him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
great.
absolutely.
Great.
Have I missed anything from episode 2?
That was the one with the Smallville
Yep.
thing, which was very nice. I liked that. I'd completely forgotten because I saw Tom Welling's name came up and I could not think what he was from. Yeah. And then as soon as I saw the plaid jacket, I was like, oh yes.
Now, you might not know the answer to this, but at the end of Smallville, does he give up his powers? Is that something from Smallville?
I'm not sure. I've not watched all of Smallville. I've watched chunks of it, and I've got the first 2 seasons downstairs for us to watch at some stage.
Okay.
I'm not sure. I know there is a big part of the plot that he wants a regular life rather than the powers, but I don't know whether it comes to fruition. I don't think so, because I have seen references that are, of course, you know, if they're saying that Smallville was always going to become the Christopher Reeve style Superman, in Superman 2, he has a way of removing his powers.
Right.
And he does that so he can have children with Lois.
Right.
So.
Fair enough. Nice. Episode 3.
Episode 3, The Flash. So The Flash did a lot of crisis build-up. So this we knew was going to get into some big stuff. Right.
Yep. I won't say I was let down. I'm not let down. I really liked it. Okay. But as soon as we saw a different Flash inside the anti-monitor machine, you kind of knew that the death of the Flash was not going to be the death of our Flash.
Okay.
But maybe this is just because I've constantly been predicting that they would be both accurate in the prediction, but also leave us with Barry Allen to carry on the Flash.
Okay.
I don't know.
I didn't think that, to be honest with you. I still expected it to be our Flash who had to go, because I think they have gotten to a point where he was the most powerful of all the Flashes. Right. The fastest speedster, the most powerful speedster.
The flashiest Flasher.
Exactly. So I thought it was still going to be him, because it would still leave them with someone who could be a speedster. And eventually they'd get Barry Allen out of the Speed Force and back from death, you know, the return of Barry Allen sort of stuff. So I was pleased with what they did. And again, like they did with the Smallville episode, giving the chance for closure to a 30-plus-year-old series is pretty nice.
Yeah.
You know, and then having a clip from that series.
I know, it's just made me want to watch it now.
Right, well, again, we've got it downstairs to watch at some stage. So, like, it's really good.
Yeah.
That was very cleverly done. I love turning up and there being a speedster. I wish they'd gone with something more interesting than just the other speedster we know about.
I quite liked him coming back.
But yes.
But it will be the last time he comes back, I think.
Absolutely. And you know, the way they dealt with that was very, very good. And it's the first time I think we've seen a speedster taking power from someone else that's not just... who was the dude? Savitar, I think, who took everyone's speed, and maybe even Zoom, someone like that, who took everyone's speed, but that was a permanent thing.
Yes.
This is, I'm taking the speed you have now, and you'll regenerate.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Yeah, that was quite nice. That was quite nice.
I didn't twig the running backwards on the treadmill. and this possibly speaks to how long it's been since I read the comic, because that whole thing is in the comic at about that thing, and that is the death of the Flash, destroying that thing.
Right.
And you know, disintegrating in the way that we saw him disintegrate.
Yeah.
Again, it leads to the return of Barry Allen 5+ years later in the comic.
Right.
So, yeah.
I thought that was really nicely done.
Yeah, really
I like
good.
that. I did think it was quite interesting that the maybe I misunderstood this, but the 90s Flash seemed to say that the reason he was there and was captured by the Anti-Monitor was because the Monitor in Elseworlds flicked him so hard that he ended up in the antimatter world. So I'm like, oh, Marnovu, that's your fault again then, is it, mate?
Again, really, you know, it speaks to the power of the Anti-Monitor without necessarily like having him on screen, a little bit like they did with Thanos, just always showing him in the background, like.
But also,
this is
just
someone
like
not to trifle with.
Marnova, if you just sat at home, none of this would happen. have happened.
Yeah, right, that's fair.
Like everything you're doing to try and help it is almost making it worse.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
I loved the constant thing about how bad the name Anti-Monitor is.
Yes, which
That's
because it
good.
is shocking.
It is. I mean, it's a very 1985 sort of thing. You know, we have the
Yeah.
Monitor and the Anti-Monitor and the Antimatter universe. But yes, they could have done something better now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What else have I got here? Oh, Cisco is once more vibe. Monitor's like, oh, and I'm going to vibe you up.
Yeah, hand
And-
wavy.
Yeah, I mean, I did like that Cisco was going, no, no, there was a reason I didn't want my powers. And it's like, no, I'm gonna vibe you up.
Yeah, and we've not seen whether that's stuck and what
No.
that means, and
No.
you know, so they're leaving that for their own series to deal with. But yes, that was a little hand wavy.
Yeah. I also thought it was a little hand wavy that not only did he give him his powers back, he also gave him his clothes back. Like,
that's very fair.
so what? These are the same things, are they?
Yeah, basically, in the same way, Martian Manhunter gets a new suit.
Yeah. What else? Pariah. How does Pariah get his powers? Is that from the Anti-Monitor?
Yeah, I think there's an essence that he is similar to Harbinger, but under coercion by the Anti-Monitor rather than working with the Monitor.
Yeah.
Sort of thing.
Because sometimes he seems powerless in that he's only around in order to witness bad things. But equally, he had the power to bring Black Lightning there.
Yes.
So in that way, he is powerful.
Yes. He can transport people, but also he can only be in places where... okay, maybe that's the way we explain it. He has power, but he can only be in certain places.
Yes.
He's not allowed to go off just using them and doing whatever, but because he was there at the end, for instance,
Yeah.
he could transport everyone to the vanishing point.
Yes.
So,
yeah,
maybe.
Fine. Fair enough. What? Yeah, Black Lightning. The inclusion of Black Lightning, bringing him closer into the family.
Yeah.
Really like that,
Wonderful.
and I love that character. We need to go back and finish that season.
Okay. I think we'll return to Black Lightning in episode 5.
Yeah.
He was fairly underused in episode 3.
Yes, I
He
agree.
came in, absorbed the energy, and that was pretty much him done. And I don't know, they didn't give him a broad character, certainly in this episode.
No, you are right, and I suppose I just saw him. I was excited because I remember how much I'd liked him in his own series.
Yeah, definitely.
But they were just like, oh, hey, you are an electric sucky dude. Suck the electrics.
Yeah.
And now we'll carry on with the conversation. So, yeah, I was pleased to see him get a seat at the table in the last episode.
Absolutely.
I am hopeful, or I hope that, rather than I am hopeful, that maybe we get more integration.
Yeah, it would be quite nice. Even just a talk of a wider universe in his own show. I did like when he turns up on the Wave Rider, there appears to be a nod between him and John Diggle. Yes. And it's again, something that's been talked about metatextually of like, we have people of colour in all these different shows, but no one's ever really addressed it too well. They've had moments in Supergirl, but they're on a different Earth from Black Lightning, and this was the first time he was interacting with these people. It was a nice thing of just, there was going to be a shared experience here, and we could do something with these characters that's a little bit more interesting. So,
yeah. Nice. What else? Oliver became Spectre through his shenanigans, or after his shenanigans.
He was taken away by someone called Spectre in this episode.
Oh, okay.
Do you want to do the Spectre conversation now?
Yes, because I thought some dude that I didn't know, but I was probably supposed to know, said, "Hey, Oliver, come, let me glow my green eyes at you, and I'm going to give you the chance to transcend and do something powerful and important, as opposed to just go back to your normal body."
Yep.
And I think very sensibly Oliver went, "Yes, I too want flashy green eyes. See you, Mia." Yeah. And that's when he said goodbye to Mia, isn't it?
Absolutely, yes.
So what is Spectre? Is Spectre something I'm supposed to know about? And who was that dude?
The dude is Spectre. So Spectre is a very powerful sort of mystical hero. Not necessarily turning up and doing heroic stuff, but is very powerful in the wider universe.
And we have had mystical stuff in Arrow before.
In Arrow before, absolutely. So it's not a thing from that. I think there was a whole thing of a Green Lantern became Spectre in the classic comics. So this was a slight thing of a green something superhero becoming thing. In Crisis with Infinite Earths, Spectre is the thing that allows them to defeat the Anti-Monitor.
Right.
So this was very much we're going to use the original story, but it's going to be different than you know it.
Okay.
It's going to be Oliver rather than Thing. The thing I like about this, and I don't think they've lent into it quite yet, they hinted at it from when Jim Corrigan Spectre turned up, that to save his city, to save his universe, Oliver Queen had to become someone else. Something else. This is the thing. I think they are doing it as what would it mean? How do we deliver on that promise of 8 years?
Yeah.
To really make it tie in. And the fact that he can still possibly turn up in these shows, have Stephen Amell back as the Spectre to do interesting stories in the future. I think this is a very good way of doing it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it.
Because yes, Oliver Queen is dead, but Spectre allows him to do other stuff as a mystical-y type thing.
Yes.
Yeah. So episode 3 ends with all our Paragons at the vanishing point.
Yep.
And then one of our Paragons dies and is taken over by Lex Luthor.
Love Lex.
Right.
Love Lex.
What a twist.
What a sneaky
What a
sneaker
great twist. He killed a Superman and got to live.
Yeah.
Terrific. I am here for that. And I'm going to be interested in talking to you whether you think it was important that Lex was there in the end. Like, did the Monitor know this was going to happen? So he's like, fine, I'll let it happen.
Well, he did bring Lex back, didn't he?
Exactly. Or is it happened in spite of Lex being there? Maybe this is something for us to ruminate on before part 2.
Yep.
What impact it did or didn't have.
Yeah.
Yeah. So no, that was great. And it ties into something that then happens in episode 4 where you see it opens with Kara carrying Superman's cape, which is a shot of a sort of reverse shot because there's a shot of Superman or a comic strip of Superman doing that to Supergirl when she dies.
Yes.
So it's a really nice comparison reverse thing there. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, really good ending, really interesting. So that was every episode that was aired up to December last year.
Yep.
And then a month later in the US and a couple of days later here in the UK, the next episode's aired. But imagine waiting for a month to find out what happened at that point.
Oh, I'm not sure I could have done.
It's so interesting. What's going on with Oliver? What's happening with the rest of the universe? There's only, clearly the people are going to survive and everything's going to come back. Like, that's going to happen.
But how?
But how? It just seems such a...
It seems a far stretch, doesn't it?
Yeah.
When everything is gone and there's just the 7 of them kind of hanging out in nothingness.
Exactly. In fact, it might even have been 2 months. I might have had that wrong. Yeah, we'll touch on that on part 2. So this is, I think because we've gone on for a fair amount now. I think this is part 1 of our Crisis on Infinite Earths conversation.
Yeah.
And then we'll have another episode that we'll record
tomorrow night.
And talk about what happened next.
Yep.
We've touched on bits of episodes 4 and 5.
We can
but
cover them again.
There's more to get into. That episode 4
was good stuff.
That's the one.
Yeah.
Okay. So that wraps us up for another week. If you have thoughts, questions, or comments, you can use the hashtag ATAV on Twitter, or you can find us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram as Eloquent Gushing. If you want to help support us, please check out our Patreon page where you can get access to exclusive content across all our shows. Go to patreon.com/eloquentgushing. And don't forget to visit the homepage, eloquentgushing.com, where you can find the other shows across the network and subscribe to our weekly newsletter with all the goings on. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you across the Arrowverse.
Across the Arrowverse is an Eloquent Gushing production. For more shows you'll love, please visit eloquentgushing.com.